one has to wonder, does he really understand national security and that we really do have a war on terror, which they have been hesitant to use?
Well,
there
is one thing that I would say about Fort Hood that I feel very strongly about, which is, and I don't say this to be political, I think it matters a lot what we call it. And we had a terrorist attack on our country. And we should call it what it is, because we need to face up to it so that we can prevent it from happening again.
I agree with you. And you know, why won't they say what you just so simply said?
It's, you know, they want to do all of their investigations. I don't know all of their thinking that goes into it, but you know, we did not have a terrorist attack on our country during President Bush's term.
Holy fuck!
Oh my God! Oh my God!
I hope they're not looking at this politically. I do think that we owe it to the American people to call it what it is.
Holy fuck!
Oh my God!
We had no domestic attacks under Bush.
Well, look, after 9/11, President Bush and Vice President Cheney had a 100% perfect track record in keeping the homeland safe from an Islamic terrorist attack. So far this year, we've had numerous attacks.
What about the shoe bomber?
Well, that was coming into the United States. It was not a domestic terror attack. I mean, it was meant to be, but it was stopped by the folks on the plane. But so far this year, we've had a dramatic uptick in the number of attacks that have actually been successful in being carried out. We had the shooting deaths of the U.S. military in Little Rock, Arkansas, left one dead.
Her father, Jerry Taylor, was one of the sniper's first victims.
Now I'm getting my closure, my justice, my peace with him getting the execution.
Mohammed and his teenage accomplice, Lee Boyd Malvo, sentenced to life in prison, began their killing spree in the West, then moved east to the Washington, D.C. area, murdering at least 10 people.
We had the Fort Hood shootings.
I would like to express my horror and deep regret over today's shooting incident at Camp Liberty in Iraq. Such a tragic loss of life at the hands of our own forces is a cause for great and urgent concern.
But as Secretary Gates said this time, when it looks as if these soldiers died by the hands of, quote, one of our own.
And the list goes on. And now, of course, we have this Detroit bombing. My concern is that I disagree with Alan completely. It took him 72 hours before he made an initial weak statement. Then it took him another day to beef up the statement while he was still on vacation in Hawaii. Then it took him another 96 hours to say, well, it looks like it could have been Al-Qaeda. I backtracked from the isolated extremist nonsense.
An Army scientist committed suicide before federal prosecutors could charge him with mailing anthrax-laced letters after the 9/11 attacks.
He is talking in euphemisms, Bill, and he is
why
not
do you think he's doing that? Why do you think he's doing that?
Because here's what I think. I think President Obama is a true believer. And what I mean by that is that he's a disciple of Saul Alinsky. Pardon me, let me finish.
Saul Alinsky,
who was a radical who believed in the radical remaking of America by shattering its very foundations. I believe that President Obama has taken that to heart to the extent where over the last year we have seen him apologize for the United States relentlessly.
But he can't want Americans to be killed.
Well, then how else do you explain his incredibly flaccid reactions to these kinds of attacks?
He's got some of the same advisors, including the same defense secretary. This idea that he has radicalized government or doesn't want the best for this country is a vicious smear, just simply because you disagree with this president on policy or tone, that he should not be smeared like that.
Real quick.
Last night you asked Speaker Gingrich, how do you account for this? It seems so irrational. Closing Gitmo, treating these people as criminal defendants instead of terrorists. How do you explain it? The explanation is, the answer is that ideology for this president trumps politics, it trumps re-election, it trumps all.
There you go.
You know, we did not have a terrorist attack on our country during President Bush's term.
President Bush and Vice President Cheney had a 100% perfect track record in keeping the homeland safe.
We had no domestic attacks under Bush.